And forgive me, just a few more things. Every once in a while, the computer gets updated and it gets confusing to find where everything is. Okay, so what was hidden this morning is where you enable the transcript. But for those, especially whose English isn't their first language, it's helpful to have the captions showing. So for this wonderful hour, we begin by setting a very clear aspiration that the practice we do together benefits us, but even more importantly, expands our mind and begins to affect all sentient beings. And so there are a series of traditional prayers at the beginning and end of each session. So I'm bringing up our prayer book. And if these are new to you, just soak them in. The first prayer is unique to our Drikung lineage, and it puts us right on the spot. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they have happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. As earth and the other elements, together with space, eternally provide sustenance in many ways for the countless sentient beings, so may I become sustenance in every way for sentient beings to the limits of space until all have attained nirvana. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. At this moment, my life has become fruitful. I have realized my human life. Today, I am born into the family of the Buddhas. Now I'm a child of the Buddhas. From now on, I will forthrightly perform the actions befitting my family. I will act so as not to degrade the faultlessness and discipline of my family. Just as with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, thus somehow bodhicitta has been born in me. This is the supreme Amrita which destroys death, the inexhaustible treasure which removes the world's poverty. It is the supreme medicine which cures the world's sickness, the tree which provides rest for beings weary of wandering on the paths of existence. It is the universal bridge on which all travelers may pass over the lower realms, the rising moon of mind which dispels the torment of the kleshas. It is the great sun which puts an end to the obscurity of ignorance, the pure butter which comes of churning the milk of the holy Dharma. For travelers wandering the paths of existence, seeking happiness from objects of enjoyment, it is supreme bliss near at hand, the great feast which satisfies sentient beings. Today, witnessed by all the protectors, I have welcomed the sentient beings, and Sugatas, Devas, and Asuras rejoice. So let's look at that line. Today, witnessed by all the protectors, I have welcomed the sentient beings and Sugatas. So this practice and training is about welcoming all sentient beings as opposed to protecting ourselves from other sentient beings. And this is then expressed in the next prayer. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. And again, matching this prayer to the first one that we started with, this means the difficult people, all sentient beings includes our difficult people and our so-called enemies. So that's where we are. That's how we're thinking about things. And we're working with a training process called the 7 Points of Mind training. And today I'm going to stop and review and pull back in the view of where we're going and look at how we're processing what we've been learning. So we've been in a section that says, all right, if you're serious about your meditation practice, about having this wonderful aspiration and putting it into action, essentially don't be mean and don't be ill-tempered and don't harm others. And as we were going into the details of those trainings, you know, the reaction that and I'm going to include myself, was, whoops, busted, or yes, you know, there is that little side of me that still can want to blame others, you know, when my enemies, so-called enemies, are having less good fortune, there's a little glee and gossip, that sense of wanting to feel separate from those folks that have harmed us and forgetting that we are welcoming them. At this point in the training, we were really looking at, we have this aspiration, which is wonderful. The trainings actually are difficult because it's more than don't blame others, it's take in the blame. Look at our own failings, our own shortcomings, and see where our side is in this, you know, very difficult. That quality of, wow, I can barely get through the family meal on Sunday before I'm off to my bad habits again, or these habits are so ingrained, you know, certainly don't get through the day without, you know, not watching my speech as carefully as I might, or bringing up sarcasm that has an edge of pain, our cultural sense of humor that we all have these days. There's a sense of forgetting that this is a process of growth. And the slogan that we think of relative to that is, don't try and be the fastest. There's a sense of being competitive and comparing ourselves with others and being competitive with ourselves. Oh, everybody else is able to do this, but I'm not. There's something wrong with me. Or I want to be where my teachers are and I'm not. And feeling that there must be something wrong with me or something wrong with my practice. And so I wanted to go back to really the 3 examples of Bodhisattva training and the progression along the Bodhisattva path, so we're clear about it. And so we know how to use our practice in those moments where we don't feel our practice is strong enough. So the first layer of the path of really opening and welcoming others is to be like a king. We see that there's a potential and we bring in all the resources. We have to have good teachers. We have to have good texts. We have to have a sense of safe boundaries to allow those boundaries to get larger and then to become permeable. So the king brings in all the resources, and the king is able to bring in the resources for himself and the people in the kingdom. So the second stage is like a captain of a ferry boat. And the captain on the ferry boat says, wow, I'm determined that I have to cross this river. Everybody come on board with me. We'll just go together on the ferry boat. And then the third example is like the shepherd. The shepherd is so relaxed, there's no place for the shepherd to go. The shepherd essentially is seeing that we call it the gateless gate, or the truth of non-attainment. So the shepherd can say to all the sheep, run ahead of me, go to the resources before me, make sure you're fed. And to want to be the fastest is to want to be at that stage when we're at the stage of the king. At the stage of the king, we see, wow, there's a long way to go with my heart, mind, to dismantle the defenses I have and to be truly open and welcoming. But I want to be the shepherd. I should be able to be the shepherd. Why am I not the shepherd and feeling bad? So that's an easy misunderstanding, or an easy inner competition with oneself, a competition between our thought of where we should be and where we are. So right in that moment is where we can sit with that feeling, whether it's a feeling of overwhelm, a feeling of not being good enough, a feeling of this is too hard, a feeling that my habits are too entrenched, it's just not possible for me to do this. And all of the trainings in Lojong lead to a deeper understanding of the Tonglen process. So the Tonglen practice is a practice of opening to suffering, allowing it to come in instead of protecting ourselves from it, and sending out what's needed in the situation. So the situation is we have these feelings about where we should be, feelings of, as I was saying, of overwhelm, or the habits are too hard, et cetera, et cetera. And in the moment, we can just sit and pause and say, at this moment, I see that I'm feeling not good enough. I'm feeling that my habits are too strong to overcome. I'm seeing that my mind has too many vengeful, poisonous, angry, however you would name it, kinds of thoughts. And it's good to learn about this, but I'll never be able to do it. So seeing that arise, we can say, just like me in this situation, feeling like this, countless sentient beings have this same feeling. Absolutely innumerable beings. I can't even imagine the number of sentient beings that face this moment, are in this moment, are feeling trapped in this moment. So we can simply breathe in this moment and relax and say, I'm feeling this, and I'm going to allow that feeling to just dissolve in its own impermanence. And I'm going to do this for everyone who is also in this moment feeling this overwhelm, feeling this discouragement. So instead of like giving into the habits and giving up, instead of wishing we were someplace that we're actually not able to be quite yet, we're remembering that we can do something with this discouragement. We can hold it, and we can hold it for all the beings who are feeling like this, and watch it. Just watch it with a kind of curiosity. And in the sitting and watching, we're not castigating ourselves, we're not activating the inner judge, we're just watching it arise as a thought and dissolve as a thought, because without activating a for and against narrative, the thought dissolves by itself. And we're taking it on because, this is not pleasant to see our own discouragement for what it is, or to see this moment of wanting to give up. But we're facing it for all those who are not in a situation where they can face it. So we're breathing it in. It doesn't get bigger. It doesn't get stronger. We're watching with curiosity. And on the out breath, we're sending patience out. We're sending the reminder that the king leads to the ferry boat captain. The ferry boat captain leads to the shepherd, that where we are is wonderful because we are seeing our habits for what they are, and we're seeing that we have access to all the different training that will help us overcome those habits. So we can begin to relax with our situation, imperfect as it is, and we can breathe out that reassurance, that relaxation, and invitation to come to the resources to all the people who are in this same situation, just like us, right in this very moment. So I'm going to invite a contemplation this morning, particularly to look at this slogan, don't try to be the fastest, to see all the inner competition that comes with the judging mind, that comes with the discouraged mind, that comes with that moment of wanting to give up. Inner and outer competition. I want to be like the teacher, but I can't jump there. I want to be in a place that I haven't grown into yet, relaxing, appreciating that the resources are available, and it is our job as the king to bring them together so that our training gets stronger and stronger and allows us to grow naturally into the larger heart-mind. So let's sit with this for about 10 minutes, see how you understand it, and then we'll have some discussion. So going further into the metaphors of the three stages of Bodhisattva unfolding, I want to tell you a short story of essentially of how it works in real life within a short amount of time. So in the 90s, in my first trip to India, I was traveling with a wonderful Tibetan teacher, Lobsang Samten. So he was taking a group of about 10 people on a tour. And we were flying to Ladakh through Jammu, which is in Pakistan. And as we were coming into Jammu, there had been an explosion in the market that day, and there were armed guards everywhere and armed guards at the airport. So when we went into the airport, I imagine Lobsang Samten, having lived in India most of his life, was very aware of the danger and had to first draw upon his training to change his mind. So he had been trained traditionally. He was a former monk and had been through not only the philosophical training of the Dalai Lama's monastery, but he was an attendant to the Dalai Lama for many, many years, going with the Dalai Lama internationally and traveling. So he would have had to first draw upon his training and calm his mind. And then, like the captain of the ferry boat, we were his direct responsibility, this small group of foreigners. And so he found a place where we could sit and brought us personally little cups of tea, and then scanned the airport and saw another group of foreigners and pulled them over and made sure they had tea and they were okay. And so that was like a combination of the king and the ferry boat captain, in that he was bringing us to India so we could get more training, and we were on his ferry. And then what was tremendously interesting to me was I watched him, after this group was safe, start to circulate around the airport. He started to talk to the people at the ticketing desk. He started to talk to the armed guards. He started to talk to the baggage people. And you could see the tension of the whole airport calm down, because he had relaxed his mind and intentionally put himself into a framework of bodhicitta and saw the suffering of the whole airport as what he could breathe in and exhale, this calm, relaxed energy of taking care of each other again. So this acknowledgement of exactly where we are and what our capacity is, and working with that in the moment, is really important. As a member of the traveling group, and who was, I don't know how I'd be now, but I didn't know how to handle such a scary situation in the 90s. I could see my practice wasn't strong enough, but I could watch his example, which made my aspiration to receive the training and develop the training even stronger. So it evoked not a feeling of helplessness or competition, but more a determination, being able to see on the spot the extraordinary benefits of the particular training. So I'm going to invite folks to have a brief discussion in the breakout room, so everyone can share their experience of what we can do when we're discouraged, or your reflections this morning about seeing this training as a springboard or a diving board into a greater capacity, and seeing the discouragement as a moment of pausing and connecting to all of the discouragement as another way of using the Tonglen training for that moment in particular. So you're invited into these discussion rooms. And for those who would just like to sit in meditation in this moment, you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. So the rooms are starting to close and folks coming back. And as the rooms are closing, I'll also close the Facebook so that our group discussion is private. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise, where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.